Let us find trigonometric function of theta equal negative 120 degrees. So we start from drawing this angle in standard position. We need to find its quadrant and its reference angle. So the angle is negative. This is x-axis, y-axis. It means the angle is measured in the opposite direction or in clockwise direction. The first quadrant in the negative direction will be in the angle negative 90. The second quadrant will be negative 180 degrees. Negative 120 is somewhere in the middle. Negative 120 degrees. We want to find a reference angle. The reference angle, negative 180. The difference between negative 180 and negative 120, which is the same as 180 minus 120, 60 degrees. So this is the reference angle. Theta prime equals 60 degrees. So the quadrant of angle negative 120 degrees is 3. In this quadrant, x is negative, so cosine theta must be negative. Y is also negative. It means that sine of theta will be negative. And tangent theta must be positive, since tangent is x over y, negative over negative, y over x, negative over negative will be positive. Tangent theta, positive. The absolute values of trigonometric function will be the same as absolute values of trigonometric function of 60 degrees. Let us look at our reference triangle. 30-60 triangle. 30, 60, this is the right angle. If you take the hypotenuse equal to 2, then the shorter leg will be the half of the hypotenuse, and the longer leg will be equal to square root of 3. You remember we got this triangle by dividing the isosceles triangle into 2 halves. So we need this angle, 60 degrees angle, sine of 60 degrees, opposite over hypotenuse, square root of 3 over 2, cosine of 60 is adjacent over hypotenuse, 1/2, and tangent of 60 is opposite over adjacent, square root of 3 over 1. And the reciprocal functions are reciprocal. So let us return to our negative 120 angle. Sine of negative 120 will be negative and equal by absolute value, square root of 3 over 2. Negative square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of negative 120 will be negative and equal to cosine of 60 by absolute value, negative 1/2. Tangent of negative 120 must be positive in the third quadrant and equal to square root of 3. Reciprocal functions. Reciprocal of sine is cosecant. Of course, it will have the same sign. 1 divided by negative will be negative as well. negative. The reciprocal of square root of 3 over 2 is 2 over square root of 3, and we want to rationalize. We multiply by square root of 3 numerator and denominator and get 2 square root of 3 over 3. The reciprocal of cosine is secant of negative 120 degrees. Reciprocal of 1/2 is 2, and it is also negative. Reciprocal function of tangent is cotangent of negative 120 degrees. Reciprocal of square root of 3, we can represent square root of 3 as square root of 3 over 1. The reciprocal will be 1 over square root of 3, and in a rationalized form we multiply by square root of 3 numerator and denominator and get square root of 3 over 3. Let us find the angle theta if we know that cosine of theta equals to negative square root of 3 over 2, and theta is in the interval from 0 to 360 degrees. So you see we have here square brackets, here parentheses, because we don't want to get the same point twice in the interval. So 0 and 360 degrees are situated on the same place, on the same terminal rate on the unit circle or in the Cartesian plane. Okay, so cosine of theta is negative. It must be an angle in the second or in the third quadrant, and we can find two angles having the same value of cosine. In the third quadrant and in the second quadrant. Cosine square, so the cosine squares of 3 over 2 is a cosine of one of the special angles. You know that cosine of 30 degrees is equal to square root of 3 over 2. It means that for both angles above the x-axis and below x-axis, reference angle theta prime must be equal to 30 degrees. On the x-axis, we have 180 degrees. So these two angles that we want to find will be the first 180 minus 30 degrees or 150 degrees, and that the second 180 degrees plus 30 degrees or 210 degrees. So we have two solutions, 150 and 210 degrees.